It has been a long time since I have sat here with you, my beloved audience. And as some of you are probably thinking, you don't have to adjust your phones or your computers or your tablets. That does not look like Brock Vieira because, ladies, gentlemen, ships at sea, that is not Brock Vieira. Congratulations to Brock, who is currently working for Sports Illustrated in their Los Angeles office and doing quite well. And who knows what this might mean for my new co-host, who will briefly introduce himself, and then we're going to dig deeply into ACC football. So please, Matt, introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, first, hello, thank you. I'm super excited to be joining the College Football Focus in the NBS media team and replacing Brock on this beautiful podcast that has been amazing for over the years. First, I want to thank or wish Brock all the luck and all the best wishes for his future endeavor with Sports Illustrated. That's amazing. So congratulations to Brock. I do obviously have some massive shoes to fill here. So I'm going to do my best to fulfill them, and I hope I can meet those expectations and fulfill them to the best of my abilities. A little bit about myself. Obviously, my name is Matthew Brunelli. You can find me on X at Brunelli Sports, name below here in the bottom left corner. I have been watching college football as long as I can remember. I'm a huge Tennessee football fan, as well as I was born and raised a Michigan fan. So a little difference there. But I at a young, early age, decided that I'm a Tennessee fan. So I have been a Tennessee football fan for the last 30 years and haven't changed my mind. I have been scouting players and doing the NFL draft for the last 20 plus years. My brother is the one who got me into it, and I have loved it. And got over the last 10 years, even got more into it. Watching over 400 players every year. So I am super excited to be on the College Football Forecast to talk about college football for this upcoming 2025 NFL or college season.
And everyone knows my origin story. Literally, I, as a child, a very small child, practically an infant, got exposed to college football while my father was a graduate student at the University of North Carolina, and I was instantaneously transfixed, and the feelings never left me. So the origin story for me started with the ACC on the campus of University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, over 50 years ago. And now the ACC, which looks radically different from the ACC that I first was baptized into. And let's talk about it. There's some questions that come up every year, at least the last few years in the ACC. And of course, three fan bases, or at least a couple of fan bases, always ask, are we back, right? By law, Florida State's fans are required to ask if they're back. Miami's fans ask every year if they're back. And we'll definitely delve into those two. Clemson, I don't know how much they ever really left, frankly, but they had a little dip, a little divot, a little
a little road bump in the road.
Little bump in the road. But we have to talk about Clemson once again. And then we're going to spend some time on those second and third tier programs. And I don't say that as a dismissive thing, but because of the direction in which college football has moved, big bank take little bank, to quote the philosopher and economic wizard that was one O'Shea Jackson, aka Ice Cube, who pointed out that big bank take little bank. So for those schools that are in the little bank area, it is not that they still can't compete, and they're going to beat teams that have more money. That's still going to happen, thank the Lord. But it changes how you do everything, right? It changes how you recruit, it changes how you hire, it changes how you lose coaches sometimes and lose players, but all that. So let's embark. I'll start by asking you. One, do you think this metastasized conference that is spread all over the place like a blob, do you think it's going to settle, and sort of be normalized at its current, shape and size, or do you think there's still more changes coming?
Well, I think with the latest news this week with NC North Carolina looking to join the SEC, so no, I don't think the ACC or any conference is ever going to be settled. I think this is just going to be part of college football I think most programs are going to try to it's going to become the Power Two. I think you're just going to have two super conferences in the SEC and the Big Ten, and these other ones are just going to be the group of five, the group of whatever it's going to be after it's all said and done. But no, I don't think the ACC is done. The ACC is looking at trying to get people to join them, but when you have North Carolina looking to go, I mean, maybe if North Carolina goes, they probably maybe try to bring Florida State along or bring Clemson along or somebody else in that to get in the ACC or in the SEC with them. Maybe Duke wants to try to jump the ship. Who knows? But I don't think the ACC or the college football landscape is done evolving and moving around.
Yeah, and I would like to disagree with you, but I cannot.
Yeah.
So we can move on.
Yeah. I think we're all at the point where we just wish it stopped, and we're just like, okay, this is the conferences. We're done. Let us settle. But I don't think we're there.
I remember a couple of years ago, I'm writing up my ACC preview article, and I start literally researching Maryland, and I've done like a paragraph and a half before it hits me. Wait a second, Maryland's in the Big Ten, like so. Yes. Luckily this year I didn't do that. This year I remembered, but it took me about a year and a half, about halfway through the second year, I began, not that I got used to it. I didn't. I'm still not used to it. But at least I was no longer saying things like Maryland. Stop saying that.
It's hard to keep track of because you sit here and you think of ACC and then you're like, oh, wait, Cal and Stanford? What? What's going on?
Yes, those natural rivalries, yes, that we've come to love in the ACC, like Cal and Stanford. Okay, so, and we will briefly touch on Cal and Stanford, but let's start with the elephants in the room. Those, obviously Clemson, Florida State, and Miami, who were traditionally powerhouse programs. Clemson has managed with, like I said, a few little potholes to hold on to that mantle. Miami started thinking they were back last year, and then things happened. And then, of course, Florida State.
I mean, Florida State, 2 years ago, if it wasn't for Jordan Travis, was in the college football playoffs.
Yep. And how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
So I will ask you, I guess we'll go worst to first. Is Florida State back? Question mark.
That's too tough to say. There's too much about Florida State to say if they're back. I mean, it's all going to be on Norvell, the head coach, and what can they do. I don't think anybody expected Florida State to be what they were last year. Nobody expect DJ to be what he was. Everybody expected Florida State to win the ACC, not be the worst team in the ACC. So as long as they have the money and the time and the recruiting, they still have I know we're in a whole new age, but everybody still thinks of Florida State as a powerhouse. Everybody still thinks Florida, fans do. They still have the culture. They still have the tradition. They have the money behind it. It's just, it's on the coach right now. I think all the pieces are there. It's just, can the coach put them together to make them good? Like why was 2023 so successful? What was so wrong with 2024? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. How in 2 years did they fall apart like they did?
Right. And fall apart is an excellent way to put it because it is extremely accurate. That's what the program did. It came apart at the seams. There were times when you saw players looking at each other like, what's going on? Like nobody seemed to know what was going on at times. Like everybody was looking at each other like, how this can't be happening.
Yeah.
Not only were they losing games to teams that normally they would manhandle by 3 scores, they were getting dominated by teams they normally would manhandle over 3 scores. Pushed around, humiliated, slapped in the face.
I mean, people were talking after winning the ACC pretty much, in 2023, we're talking about firing Norvell halfway through last season because that's how bad it was. I mean, you go from losing your star quarterback, Jordan Travis, and making the college football playoffs to getting destroyed by Georgia in the bowl game. And then I really think the Georgia bowl game just just dismantled that whole culture, whatever that locker room. A lot of those players did leave, but some stayed, and I don't think that butt whooping. I'm trying to be politically correct here. I don't think they ever recovered from the shellacking that Georgia put on them in the bowl game in 2023.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree. It looked like they were in shock at times. I mean, I think that's the best way I can think to put it. It looked like they were quite literally in shock. Like, it's one thing to not play well, right? Lots of teams that should be good end up not being good. Every year, some team that everybody thinks is going to be good isn't. That part isn't the shocking. What's shocking is they not only lost these games that people didn't think they lose, it was the way they lost some of these games. And as I said, they looked like they didn't even belong on the field with some of these other teams.
Yeah, they looked like a Pop Warner team playing in college football at times last year.
Yeah, that was the shock, that a team, even when they aren't good, even when they're struggling, even when maybe they might be weak at a certain position or whatever it is, you're used to them just trotting out a certain level of talent and being competitive just based off that. You can usually pencil them in for 8 or 9 wins just based on, look at all the 4 and 5 star recruits. None of that mattered. No. So maybe that shows you, even in the NIL age, even when power schools can just stack all this talent, maybe sometimes it still won't be enough.
Yeah, I think you said NIL, which is a huge part of college football, and that'll be a topic for a different day and everything else. But I think it's going to teach programs you can't throw money at these recruits that proven nothing. Look at Tennessee, SEC. We can talk about it later. But giving Nico a 4-year, $8 million deal, do you think you got your money? Yeah, we made it to the college football playoffs, but he threw 6 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Do you really think you got your money's worth?
Yeah, well,
different story, different day. But I'm just saying.
Right? No, you're not wrong though. You're not wrong. Last thing I'll say about, we sort of talked about realignment. The ACC's grant of rights, which is basically it's a lot of things, but in terms of football and realignment, it means a poison pill that you have to swallow if you want to leave the ACC, and it's a sizable pill. So it'll take. Now the money goes up every year that you get from or not every year, but every few years you get from television. So maybe it'll get to the point that you can afford to swallow that pill.
Yep.
And of course, I mean, SMU, paid a sizable. They went a year, I think, with receiving no television revenue, and paid a sizable buyout to get out of their last conference. But SMU has what we used to call, FU money.
Yep.
And so soon they will be, they're already using it, but soon I think they will be counted regularly amongst the cream of the crop of the conference.
I think the thing with SMU is that they got the death ticket in the 90s. They killed their program in the 90s, and now they're resurfacing. What if that never happened to that program? Would they could be considered the Texas of Texas? We don't know what it. It would have been it's one of those what if stories with SMU, how they were a powerhouse in the 90s. What if
under Coach Ron Meyer, and bringing in the Pony Express backfield, and Michael Carter, right, the silver medalist in the Olympics and the shot put. Yeah, they had a heck of a team. NIL pioneers, Southern Methodist University, a little bit ahead of their time, but yeah, but they
just got hot. Everybody was doing.
Right. Yes, exactly. You're right. All the top programs. I mean, they frankly, Coach Meyer sort of asked Derek Dickerson, what's the top offer on the table? And one of them, I won't name the school, but you might be able to guess the school. New cars for he and his mother, jobs for his mother and stepfather, it might have been, or some guy her mother was dating or something like that. But basically 2 jobs and 2 brand new cars, and then probably a floating bag of cash every now and again.
Yeah.
So,
and don't worry. When you walk in that house, there's gonna be a duffel bag full of cash. Don't worry, we got you.
Right. So I think that was, and SMU said, "Oh, we can beat that." Right. Yeah. Was essentially, I think, is how it worked. But history story time will be later. I'll stick with the now, and I'll stick with the ACC. So. I agree, especially on defense. Clemson looks really good. Like, I've been breaking down their roster, and it's like, oh boy. I mean, even if Cade Klubnik stays the same guy, they're going to have a very good shot at double-digit wins. If he improves significantly at all, that should be a very dangerous program.
If he was the Clay Covenant of last year, rolls into this season, yeah, that Clemson team is going to be a powerhouse to deal with in this upcoming season.
The other thing I noticed is for a while there, they were challenging Ohio State and LSU for the WRU designation, right, at one point, and then that fell off a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They might be back. They might be back in the WRU wide receiver university discussion. Their wide receiver group also looks really good. Of course, that's where originally Dabo sort of hung his hat. That's what he was himself in college and was a wide receivers coach. In fact, he was never a coordinator at the college level, for those who might remember. He was originally a guy who was going to be a seat warmer, right? He was, interim coach, and then, the rest is history.
Yep.
So outside of Clemson, and of course, I think Miami, we'll talk about Miami in a moment. Florida State, I think, will be on the periphery of back. I don't think they're fully back. To me, if they can
Tommy Castanello, Castanello is going to be the deciding factor. It's the quarterback.
Castellanos is Thomas Castellanos plays at a Diego Pavia level.
Yeah.
Right? If you can hit the Pavia line, they're a dangerous program.
Yeah.
If they are realizing 5 weeks into the season they've made a terrible mistake, what is the Virginia quarterback that transferred and then about 3 weeks into the season they were like, hey, guys, who's played some quarterback?
Yeah. I can't. You're Virginia. Who watches Virginia football? Come on.
I do. I watch everybody. But, he was a redheaded guy, ran probably a little much more than he
Are we talking about last year?
Yeah, well, he transferred from Virginia to – where did he transfer to? It'll come back to me. But, he was supposed to raise the level of the room. He had been a Heisman Trophy, like a dark horse, Heisman Trophy finalist, or at least in the top at one point, because he set a couple of school records at Virginia, and then he got hurt. Oh, I can picture him in my mind. He has one of those double last name names.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. I'm trying to do a quick,
It'll come back to me at some point. But
it'll be.
My point is that the transfer portal, which is, the hot new way to fix your quarterback problem, obviously, does not always work out. Unless you're Oklahoma, then it always works out. But for other schools, it's been a mixed bag and a mixed blessing. But if Castellanos is a true dual threat, stays healthy, and develops a little bit, let's say he becomes 15% better as a passer, then yes, that's a dangerous program. But I want to spend some time on my favorite dual threat quarterback in the ACC at Southern Methodist University. They've got Mr. Jennings. And if Mr. Jennings takes that same sort of move up, I'm not saying he's going to do a full-on Jaden Daniels. But if he becomes 3/4 of Jaden Daniels, that's another program that's going to present problems to people. Even when he was young and didn't fully know what he was doing, because, Preston Stone was supposed to be the guy when he first gets there. He's supposed to have to wait his turn. And then a combination of, injury mostly, but also some things that Preston Stone wasn't doing as well as he'd done early in his career. He gets a chance. Jennings gets out there and never leaves the field, right? He even when Stone's fully healthy, he never wins his job back. And Jennings is one of those guys that if he takes the jump, as they sometimes call it, whew,
yeah,
because SMU has dudes.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was looking at SMU players in this upcoming draft, and you're just like SMU. You're there. SMU is a loaded school with a lot of guys coming up this year that they could definitely make it dangerous. And for people who don't know, Jennings had, was 65 completion rating last year, 5,200 yards, 23 touchdowns in the air, and he also ran for 350 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. He does have a turnover issue, so that's the one thing he does need to work on. He did throw 11 interceptions last year, so you would like to see that number come down a little bit, but he definitely can make that team a lot, with a weaker – quotation marks, weaker ACC, and what this SMU team can be. Jennings is a guy who can, as a junior, could definitely propel himself up in the NFL draft as well, make himself a Heisman candidate with those type of numbers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he has a real chance to push his way into being a Heisman candidate, and can push his way into being, as you said, a guy not even on the first, but in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
I have a lot of SMU players circled. Also, I really like RJ, Russell Maryland Jr., another feel old moment for good old Bill, who got to watch his dad play at Miami. But I think RJ Maryland is almost, he's being slept on. I think people know who he is, especially draft people know who he is. But I think he's going to push his, once again, if he stays healthy this year, he's going to push his way up people's tight end rankings because he can block. He's got size. He's a good athlete. He's got good hands. Super solid, high football character. I think he's going to put, people are putting like a 5th, 6th round on him. I think he's going to.
Currently, early season, I have a 34 on him.
Oh, well, there we go. Ha-ha. That's why I like you. Okay, so.
early season, obviously things can change before season. Yeah. But yeah, I do have a 3-4, late day 2, early day 3 pick right now.
Hard to argue with that. Such a smart man. Okay, so let's keep plowing ahead. The other, it's not a marquee program, but it's the most discussed program in the ACC for a variety of reasons, is, of course, my Tar Heels of the University of North Carolina in beautiful Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It is beautiful. I urge everyone to visit if you get a chance. There's a lot going on in Chapel Hill right now. They have a super, super deep coaching staff. People don't talk about coaching staffs enough, I think. Coaching really matters in college, man. Like, it matters in the pros too, but it really matters in college. I've seen teams that should have been 11-2, 12-1 go 9-3, 8-4 because
Florida State 2024.
And I've seen the reverse, right? I've also seen, shout out to, Iowa State's coaching staff and others who you look at the team and you're like, okay, 7, 8 wins, go get them, right? And then they managed to win 2 or 3 games that you think they had no business winning. So
Gary Patterson, TCU 2 years ago.
Oh, Kansas State forever under Bill Snyder, right? I mean, for pretty much every year. So coaching really matters in college football. If Bill Belichick and his staff, which includes 2 of his sons, obviously, but a lot of other guys with a lot of pro experience, if they get those guys coached up, because they have some good talent, a lot of 3s, but a good sprinkling of 4 stars. And if they do well this year, that opens the door for 5 stars. And once you start bringing in even a sprinkling of 5 stars, they talk to each other, right? And so you go from having 2, then you have 4, then you have 6, right? So, and then before you know it, you're knocking on the door of Clemson and others. The big things for me will be their defensive line, their defensive secondary on defense, and then, of course, the quarterback position on offense. I think the running backs are solid. I like the interior of their offensive line. The offensive tackles need to answer some questions, and the portal has helped them. But if, and it's a sizable if whoever floats to the surface amongst, which looks like it'll be Gio Lopez. He was in a 4-way battle at various points, but it looks like Gio Lopez, the South Alabama transfer, is going to be the guy, at least initially. And he's another one of those sort of, I call him like the shine version or sheen version or Temu version of Baker Mayfield. Like, that stocky guy, moves a little bit, tough, sometimes too tough for his own good, tries to make some big plays down the field, even when there's 8 free yards, but it's like, nah, I'm going to try something.
Yeah, let me try this out really quick.
Yeah, right. So, I'm sure the reins will be pulled in on that a little bit, but he's also got Max Johnson, Amory Newkirk, and a couple of the people sort of.
Bryce Baker.
Yep. All around him, depending on what happens. But it's an interesting quarterback room because they're very different kinds of quarterbacks.
Yeah, right? He has every aspect of quarterback across his quarterback room right now.
Every single type of quarterback represented. Old and young, right? I mean, I think there's almost a 7-year gap between the oldest and youngest quarterbacks in that room. So yeah, they've got every single kind of quarterback: tall, short, slender, thick, all the quarterbacks.
Power arm, not a power arm.
Yes, right. Strong, weak, medium, all quarterbacks are represented. All quarterbacks matter. But he's got one of everything in there. Whoever it is that settles to the top, and it looks like right now it's Gio Lopez. If he is one, more consistent, and two, starts taking what's there, they could be, which those two work together, right? If you start taking what's there, you will be more consistent. If he starts doing those things, that could be a dangerous team. They have some defensive talent. There's some guys who are going to play in the league on defense at Carolina. Not surprisingly, right? I mean, why wouldn't you go to be coached by Bill Belichick on defense if you had the opportunity? So I'll be interested to see what the portal hath wrought for them. But it's going to be very interesting.
To talk about, like, used quickly with UNC. If there's a coach who should have always been a college coach, it's probably Bill Belichick. I don't know if he needs 5-star, 4 stars. He's going to recruit who he wants to recruit. That's going to fit his system, and then he's going to make them players fantastic under his system. He's going to coach up all of his players. He's what he's done his whole career in the NFL. He's going to get who he wants. He's going to draft who he wants. And I think he's going to approach it the same way in college football. He's going to recruit who he wants. If it's a 2-star to a 5-star, if he thinks you're going to fit in his system and work, he's going to bring you in and coach you up.
Can't disagree with that even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So when I think about other programs that could float to the surface or emerge, I'm going to mention 2, and I'll ask you to give me 2 that you think also could, find their way, punch above their weight, whatever term to use, into that, if not the first tier, then the top of the second tier in the conference. And I'm going to start with Louisville, right? Louisville is always, they upset somebody every year, right? That's another one of those teams that, keep your head on a swivel. So somebody's going to get got by Louisville every year. There's a couple of programs you can ask about that. They also have a very interesting quarterback situation. Miller Moss, of course, the former USC transfer, has settled in. He's being coached up. Coach Braum is one of those quarterback whisperers. They lost a lot off of a very good defense last year. I'll be interested to see how they plug some of those holes, but that offense is going to be fun to watch again this year. They have at least one NFL type at receiver. Their running backs are sort of TBD, kind of like what they'll be at the running back position, but I think they'll be productive, partially because people are worried about stopping the pass. So when you run the ball, they're able to relax a bit, like, oh, thank God, it's just a run. But they have a tradition, a recent tradition at least, of being productive as a running team, even when you aren't sure who the backs are. But I think that they're going to be very interesting, very good as an offense. And should they have plugged 3 or 4 significant holes on defense, I could see them being in that 9-10 range.
That was one of my teams I had. I wrote down 4 teams. Louisville was one of them. So
okay, well, I only take one more. So at least your other 2 should be safe. The other one I'm going to mention, because I truly think this guy is a budding superstar as a coach. That's Thomas Brown at Syracuse. They also had a lot of NFL talent leave, right? But obviously Gadsden's gone. They lost their quarterback. They lost just their leading tackler in Justin Barron, who was one of my favorite sort of throwback players last year. That's a guy that would play football in a parking lot, right? I mean, that guy was born maybe in the wrong era, but he's sort of a John Lynch-esque safety in an era where that's not what many teams are seeking nowadays, safety. But he'll find a way. He might end up being kicked up to linebacker, but Justin Barron will find a way to hang around the NFL for a while. Maybe it'll be a special teams asset, but probably be both. But Syracuse, should they manage to once again plug some of the holes, and they do a great job of recruiting both at the high school level, but also working the portal. Thomas Brown is pound for pound one of the best recruiters flatly there is. Period. Right?
Yeah.
Anywhere. And as you mentioned when we sort of did our little practice run to get ready for the show, you don't know how long he's going to stay at Syracuse.
Yeah. If he has another 9-win season, I don't see Thomas Brown unless they drop the truckload on his front porch and say, "You're staying at Syracuse, Thomas."
Which is what I'd be doing I'd be extending the living daylights out of him if I were him.
Yeah.
This is where I'd be investing, right? Your whatever club, of boosters. It's like, okay, after we hit you up for the normal stuff, now we have a special coach buyout fund, right?
Yeah.
Now the second round
Yes.
of donations hits. But Ricky Collins and Steve Angeli are battling it out for the quarterback spot. They lost all of their top running backs and all of their top receivers from last year, so that's wide open. The only returning receiver who showed up in my notes at all last year, literally, like I noticed him in like 3 games, is Darryl Gill Jr., who is probably going to be wide receiver 1 this year. But like I said, I'm fascinated by what they'll end up doing. I think that, they lost their top sacker, they lost their top tackler, they lost, I think, their top guy in pass breakups. The only really reliable person in their secondary to bring back is Deuce Chestnut and Devin Grant, who was not a starter officially last year, but played a lot. So they're going to try to build around those guys. I assume that's what they're going to try to do. Their schedule, however, does them no favors, my friend. I don't know if you checked out their schedule, but they are going to play some playoff and bowl teams from last year. And the first month of the season, that'll tell you everything you need to know. They got to get off quickly, get some wins, including against some teams that maybe people weren't expecting them to beat. But should they do it, that sets them up for probably maybe not 10 wins, but 8 to 9 wins, I think, is certainly possible. They won 10 last year, but had a much less challenging schedule last year. And of course, again, had McCord and, had a much more veteran kind of team.
Yeah. It's going to be a true testament on Thomas Brown this year with the amount of staff or players he lost in this last season.
Yep. Players I've circled as prospects: Austin Collins, the Louisville transfer; Josh Miller, the Georgia transfer. And of course, you'll see a trickle of Georgia transfers every year, at least for the next few years. Guys who knew Thomas Brown from his days there are going to come in and compete. The center spot is sort of up for grabs, and 4 total starters are being replaced. So that's a lot. They brought in David Reese from Cal, who I've circled as a guy who maybe is going to give them some of what they had in Fadil Diggs, who was in last year's draft. Demetrius Samuel Jr. is another guy who needs to step up as to try to plug some of those holes on defense. And like I said, Devin Grant, the nickel, will be this year's nickelback. Deuce Chestnut, the safety. And then the last guy I would have sort of circled, because I think he's going to end up being a pro prospect, is Derek McDonald, their linebacker, who, if I had to pick a guy who will lead the team in tackles this year, it would be him. But I'll be fascinated to see how they get off to a start in the season. Give me your.
So I'm going to go ahead and have to stick with a team in the ACC that I kind of bullish on during our little rundown or dry run. I'm going to have to stick with Virginia Tech here. It's a break, or it's a break season for Brett Pry and staff in Blacksburg, Virginia. I think they have all the pieces there to be a very successful team this upcoming season. I think you have the quarterback in Drones, who could be a dark horse candidate for the Heisman. If Virginia Tech goes off to win 10 to 11 games, it's because Drones is having a Heisman-type season. I really do believe in Drones. If Drones has that type of season, I think he can work himself into a draftable NFL quarterback prospect. They went and spent a lot of money, time, efforts, resources in the running back position, trying to go back to what they're known for: strong defense, running offense. So this last transfer portal, they went and got true freshman running back from Bowling Green, Terrion Stewart, Coastal Carolina running back Brandon Bennett. And then, of course, I got to talk about my Central Missouri superstar running back, Marcelius Hawkins, also transferred to Virginia Tech. Obviously, he's like running back 6, but I would hope he gets to see some, because he can also be a slot wide receiver. He does catch the ball a lot. So it'll be interesting on how they want to use Hawkins, as well as they added Cam Seldon from Tennessee, a power running back who's also a very good special teams player. So Virginia Tech spent a lot of time and efforts on this running back position in this upcoming season. So it's going to be very fascinating with their quarterback, Jones, who's a running quarterback who has a powerful arm, to see how Virginia Tech wants to go here. So I think Virginia Tech can easily win 8 to 10 games, but it's all, again, going back to the coaching. Brent Pry, this is the break season. If Brent Pry does not go and win at least 8 games, I think he's out. The best season he had was his second season, which was 7 wins. He won 4, 7, and 6. You're not staying in Blacksburg, Virginia with that type of record. They're used to winning. They're used to getting to, bowl games. They have not given Brent Pry a second contract yet. So I could easily see him being out the door if they don't have a very successful season coming up. And then the other team we're going to talk about really quickly, I'm going to talk about is Georgia Tech. You got to go ahead and talk about Georgia Tech with Hayes King, the quarterback down there. He can easily be a day 2, day 3 type NFL quarterback. So it's going to be very exciting to see what can be done down in Atlanta, Georgia, with that Georgia Tech team and that offense with this ACC school rankings right now. You really don't know who the top dogs are besides Clemson and potentially SMU going into the season.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about Tech, and I know you mentioned Boston College before. It's another program that.
Yeah, that was my other one. I thought you were going to take Tech, Georgia Tech. I thought I was going to.
You're safe there. You're safe there. But I do feel like I have to mention Duke for 2 reasons. I think though they lost some players, I think in most cases they upgraded from the guys they lost.
Yeah.
Right. I think they lost their quarterback from last year, and then they went and spent, depending on who you ask, maybe $8 million. I don't know, but I don't know if that it was. I don't know the exact number, but I've heard rumors about exactly how much total, NIL money was devoted towards Darian Mensah. I like Darian Mensah a great deal. And Malik Murphy struggled at times. It wasn't always his fault. He wasn't always bad, but last year with Malik Murphy, he only converted third down 30% of the time. And he was not super accurate at times. He was a good athlete. Sometimes I think he flushed from the pocket when he didn't need to. He seemed to be a little antsy at times. And the offensive line wasn't always great. I get that. But there were times when he made them look worse than they were. And I think that Darian Mensah is basically better at almost everything. He may be maybe not quite the same pure athlete, but he's got him every place else. So in his previous year at Tulane, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, rushed for 132 yards, just 66% completion percentage, and he wasn't dinking and dunking. He was pushing the ball down the field. They also got Caleb Weaver competing with guys like Andrell Anthony. They have some potential. And then, obviously, I think that if he becomes anything what he could be, that'll be a good player. The game I'm circling for them right now is one of the first games, UF Illinois. It'll be a good measuring stick game for both. It's a big non-conference game. They're playing a Big Ten school that also is one of those sneaky good programs, right? Bielema's building a very similar program to the kind of programs he built when he was at Wisconsin.
Yep.
Big on both sides of the line, control the clock by today's standards. Control the clock by today's standards. You're not going to win too many 13-10 anymore, but control the clock by today's standards. Run the ball, pass when you have to, and pass well enough that if you need to, you can still do it. Last year, they gutted out a win versus Northwestern, which is obviously not quite the same as Illinois. Got off to a 5-0 start last year and set them up for a 9-win season. If they can come close to replicating that, of course, once again, this is a better team, but it'll really announce, what they could be. So when I look at Duke's top players, Chandler Rivers, the corner, is the guy I think will play at the next level. I already mentioned Darian Mensah. Wesley Williams, the defensive end, is a guy I think will play at the next level. Probably a day 3-ish kind of guy, but I think he's an NFL prospect. Safety Terry Moore is another guy I think is an NFL guy. Offensive tackle Brian Parker is a guy that, once again, on that day 3 to undrafted free agent fringe, but an NFL type guy. Aaron Hall, defensive tackle, is a guy that I think is probably a middle of day 3 type guy. Trey Freeman is another guy who's on that bubble between drafted and undrafted, but I think will play in the NFL. Caleb Weaver is a guy who I think is definitely going to get drafted. But once again, he's making that jump up from Sam Houston State, but Sam Houston State plays a pretty good level of competition. And if you saw how good Caleb Weaver was, I don't think it'll be that difficult for him to make the transition. And then that their biggest, other than Mensa, their biggest skill position add on in the portal was Andrel Anthony, the wide receiver. And I just think Andrel Anthony will end up no worse than wide receiver 2. He has a lot of the qualities that I think will allow him to not just do well, the former Michigan receiver, but I think he'll establish himself as one of the better receivers in the conference. He's been a lot of places, right? From Michigan to Oklahoma, and finally, his final stop, just being a couple of years, a couple of different places. But he's got decent size. Think of like a thinner, slightly less polished version of a guy like Devontae Adams. Like, I mean, not that he can be. Well, I mean, he could be.
I mean, you never know. Yeah,
I'm not
predicting.
predicting.
Everybody hates, comps because you never know.
I'm not predicting he'll be Devontae Adams. In fact, I'm not predicting anybody in this class is going to be Devontae Adams. But in the way that he does what he does, the way that he wins, as they say, is Devontae Adams-esque. Yes, he likes to body you up. He can jump. He's got long arms and big hands. So he plays he's probably about 6 feet and 3/8 of an inch. He probably plays taller just because of that. I want to mention at least a few more players and programs. I have to talk about the West Coast teams. One, because, we kind of do. We don't have to spend much time on them, but we have to at least mention them. One, because it still feels weird. I'm just going to admit it feels weird to me. It probably won't stop feeling weird.
It's going to feel weird to everybody.
But Stanford and Cal are in the conference. Cal has a chance to at least be 500-ish, right? Maybe a game above. Maybe if they're right.
Maybe.
Stanford, I have a bad feeling about this.
I don't think it's a question that they're the worst team in the ACC.
On paper, they definitely are. Now you talk about coaching, right? If we see some coaching wizardry, to me, more than 4 wins means like, hey, well done, right? If you get to win number 5, you might want to extend that guy, right?
Yeah.
They got a tough way to go. When you combine that recruiting, this has not helped them recruiting wise, Matt. I don't know if you've heard. This has not helped them recruiting wise. They have not killed it in the recruiting game.
Yeah, how they have fallen.
It's gonna be tough. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. It's gonna be tough.
I forgot Frank went out there to be the head coach. I honestly forgot about that until I just looked at it.
Yes,
I forgot Andrew Luck is now the
GM. Yep.
GM. It's a GM in college football. That is still something I'm getting used to.
I have friends who are GMs in college football. So yes, it is. Ironically enough, when he was now he's I have a very good friend. He's now an NFL scout, but he was a GM at a couple of different schools, and he was responsible for getting Jennings back at SMU. But Stanford University is, yes, they're going to be climbing uphill. I think in all but maybe 2 or 3 games this season. They are not going to be favored many times, I guess is a good way to put it. And they've got to figure something out. I know I've said this before, and I wasn't entirely being facetious. They really should consider rejoining the pack, whatever it is, because
both of them should, be honest with you.
Well, I mean, to be truly honest, but they do have some guys on defense that I think are flirt with being NFL prospects. Tabanua Tafidi, Jay Green, and Colin Wright are all guys that I have day 3 grades on. But that's about it. I'm not gonna lie. That's about it. That's about the list. They had 4 straight 3-9 seasons, Matt. So once again, when I say bust into that 4-win threshold, it should be somewhat celebrated.
Yeah, Frank Wright's going to have to do some quarterback whispering magic to get that team to look competitive.
Yep.
I mean, I was just looking at their schedule. I think the only confident and it's very not confident. It's the Hawaii matchup that I can see them win.
Yep. Yep. And they've got. I think they'll win a couple more games. But yeah, once again, four wins or more.
I mean, just for people to know, it's Hawaii, BYU, Boston College, Virginia. All right, maybe Virginia. You never know. San Jose State, there's another potential.
Maybe, yeah.
SMU, not winning. Florida State, we'll see. We don't know.
We'll see.
Miami, Miami, they're not winning. Pittsburgh, they're not winning. UNC, they're not winning. Cal, they're not winning. Notre Dame, they're definitely not winning. Okay. They could end the season with 5 straight losses easily.
Yeah. So in the portal, okay, so walking through this team, they lost Emmett Mosley V, who was their most interesting to me, and Jaden Knott, obviously. Other than Jaden Knott, who's now at Oklahoma, but the other player of note on their offense, of course, they lost a quarterback to Mendoza, who's at Indiana. But the player I thought they might hold on to, I guess, I knew they were going to lose those two guys. When they lost Everett Mosley also, woo! And then Ashton Daniels went to Auburn. Elijah Brown is now the front runner to start, who I didn't see very much. I watched the spring game. I was like, he's got some stuff. So, but you could see he's both physically and mentally beginning to adjust to the college game. So be patient with him. They did get wide receiver C.J. Williams from Wisconsin. Tuna Altair from Eastern Washington, who's a running back he can do a little bit of everything. He knows how to pick up blitzes. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run with it. They got Nike Prongos from UCLA. The running back room is probably the best room of all the rooms, right? Micah Ford's an interesting player. Cole Tabbs there. Chris Davis Jr. Cedric Urban Jr. God, I feel old. Former Michigan State, son of former Michigan State standout Cedric Urban. Jonan Ongahuje and Caden High are other guys who have physical ability but haven't really done much so far. I also like their tight end room a little bit. Sam Roush and Chico Holt. If I were them, I might go 2 tight end a lot because those are some of them were impressive players on the team. You mentioned Pitt and Boston College. Before we close out, I think we should talk at least a little bit about those 2 programs. And NC State. We have to talk about NC State and Wake Forest. And then I think we're done. So Wake Forest is what Stanford should aspire to be. You know what I mean? A school where smart people go and the fans care enough that it doesn't look bad when a televised game happens at your campus, right? It doesn't look bad. There's not too many empty seats. And you upset somebody good every year or 2.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get to, charge the field and you're in a bowl game more often than not.
I don't think Stanford is realistically going to ever probably be a playoff team
the way that college football works now, you're correct. It's very unlikely. A lot of very unexpected things would have to happen. Like, the Luck family would have to say, look,
here's all the money.
I've decided to take the Luck Family Foundation Trust and cash it all in. Something like that. And then, like, his children would have to all be very talented, and then he'd have to pledge all of his children. It would take a few different things would have to happen. But
selling the soul down the crossroads,
some things. They have to do some things. Outside the box thinking is what we're talking about here, Matt. But most likely they should aspire, like I said, to be Wake Forest.
And Wake Forest, like you said, Wake Forest has a lot of good prospects every year. They always at least get a player or 2 drafted or talked about.
Drafted every year. They're in the bowl game. 3 out of 4 years are in a bowl game.
They have one of the best running backs in the upcoming draft in Demon Claiborne.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're exactly right. That is what you should aspire to be, a 6-7 win team, and just be happy you're in a bowl game every year and you're producing talent and keeping relevant.
Yes. because that has not been what's been happening on the farm at Leland Stanford University lately. They have been consistent. I will say that. They have been consistent. I think that's the best way to put it.
Consistently bad.
Yes, correct. Now, NC State, once upon a time, was a dark horse. Like everybody, there was a sexy dark horse pick to like challenge for the conference championship. Remember those days? It wasn't that long ago. That they were the
they always do it though. It's like every 4 or 5 years, NC State's like, don't sleep on NC State. They got Mike Glennon. Oh, they got Russell Wilson. Oh, they got that. He never. I forget the guy. I know there's a guy after Mike Glennon. I'm blanking out on his name right now.
Yeah, they've had some guys who are. I mean, the case of guys like Phillip Rivers, elite type NFL quarterback prospects. In the case of Russ, he was a guy that probably should have been considered an elite prospect, but wasn't seen as one. And then Glennon was tall. Yeah. But they have lately had some turnover at the quarterback position. Yes. Partially due to that's just how college football works nowadays. And partially to they seem to have lost their mojo about developing underrated quarterback prospects, which was kind of their brand at one point, Matt. And now I'll be interested to see. Eli Drinkwitz is another of those guys who's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer. So we'll see.
Do we expect Grayson McCall back this year? Or
that's at one point I thought he might be medically retired.
I thought so too. I see him still on the roster, but I thought there was something about him medically retiring.
I thought I heard he's medically retiring. But if he ends up somehow playing,
because he's the only veteran on that roster. The rest is you got 3 freshmen and a sophomore, or 4 freshmen and a sophomore.
Yeah, I was confirmed that he did. He medically retired. He's actually now a offensive analyst back at Coastal.
Okay, so who's their quarterback then?
See, this is where the fun begins, my friend. I'm so glad we're doing this show. So I will now introduce you to the quarterback room at NC State. And as we said, maybe they weren't mighty, but how the once consistent, at least at that position, have fallen. Where once every few years, right? I mean, circle that East Carolina game, right? Week 0. That's not a guaranteed win.
No. East Carolina is always that danger school every year. You never know. They were Virginia Tech's worst nightmare for multiple years.
Right. And I am aware that Eli Drinkwitz is not there anymore. I do actually know that. It's Dave Doran. I am actually aware of that. But maybe that's part of why they lost some of their mojo quarterback development. But they opened right out of the box, right, with a game that looks like a win but might not be. Then they have Virginia next. That should be a win. Wake Forest, that could go either way. Yeah, Duke, that's probably a loss. Then, of course, your sturdy Hokies, Virginia Tech, that's probably a loss, but it could go either way. They get a little bit of break with the Campbell Camels. That probably should be a win, though the Camels are sometimes, a little tough. But
they're doing. I know they got a new head coach down there, but their old head coach who was there for a long time, ex-NFL player. I would have to go look.
Mike. Played corner, played a little bit.
Yes.
Nickel. Mike with the Tennessee Titans and some other people. Mike. And his last name starts with M or N. Well.
Yeah, but he was recruiting very well for a couple of years. And then, but he was just struggling with winning. He just couldn't win. I mean, they gave him his time. It's not like they didn't give him. He was there for like 6 or 7 years.
Right. And they had a few quality wins sprinkled in there, but you're right. Not what they were expecting.
Mike Minter.
Yes. Mike.
10 years.
I knew it was a double M name. Thank you, Mike Minter.
Yeah. He was head coach for 10 years.
Yep. Wow. 10. I mean, you get 10 years, you can't complain. That's nowadays, particularly, that's a long time. So last year they had a very young receiving core, and of course some of those guys are gone because that's how college football works nowadays. But a lot has happened. And a lot more may still happen.
It's their quarterback room. That quarterback room is
fascinating is the word I would.
Yeah, because there's nobody. I mean, it's all young players. They don't have a proven quarterback.
No, quite. They have the opposite.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that means that somebody emerges. So Kurt Roper and DJ Elliott, they have 2 new coordinators to go with everything else. A lot of newness. Roper was a guy that had some good and some bad years at Florida and other places he's been. CJ Bailey is a very talented kid, though, man. Once again, I'm not out here comparing people to Jaden Daniels, but he at times he looked like Jaden Daniels when Jaden Daniels was forced to start as a freshman, as a true freshman at Arizona State, both physically, like, please eat, get in the weight room. I can't remember what CJ Bailey was listed at, but he looked like he weighed about 181 pounds. Now, he probably might be a little heavier than that, but he didn't look it. And he did end up starting 8 games last year due to, well, partially what happened to Grayson McCall and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Justin Jolly.
They did say CJ Bailey's added 20 pounds of muscle.
Good. Yes, he desperately needed to do that. He had his high school body, which is to be expected. He was a true freshman. So he no longer has the high school body. Justin Jolly, I think, is one of the best tight ends in this draft class. So he has at least one guy he can count on. All-name team nominee, Hollywood Smothers, is probably going to be RB1. They do bring back Terrell Anderson. They bring back Keenan Jackson, Jarrell Boulder, and somebody else. Who was the other one? They had another receiver I liked. I can't remember which one. Rogers. They brought back the Rogers kid too. Defense to me is the really big question mark. Pretty much their entire secondary, with one big exception. That's Devin Marshall, who I think might be an NFL guy. But the rest of them are either young high school guys that came up from high school, or guys who played someplace else last year. Jaron Sensabaugh, yes, another feel-old moment. Gerald Sensabaugh, I scouted not that long ago. And now I'm seeing Jaron Sensabaugh. That's a real blow to my senses. But Ronnie Royal III are guys that are in the mix for defensive back spots, but they're going to be very young at a lot of positions. Linebacker is not one of them. They bring back Sean Brown and Caden Forum, both redshirt seniors. Right, so that's probably the saltiest of all their position groups. In fact, Temple transfer Trey Thomas is in the mix too. Another really experienced player. They have one experienced interior player on the defense. That's the senior nose tackle Brandon Cleveland. And then beyond that, it's young guys or transfers. You'll hear me say this a lot. And then after that, it's young guys or transfers. DJ Elliott himself, right, is a younger, coach who's sort of proving himself as a. They're going to be more aggressive. That's what I keep hearing. They'll be much more aggressive on defense. No more read and react. They're going to be getting upfield. They're going to be trying to increase, get sacks, TFLs, play with their hair on fire, all that good stuff. Other guys I want to mention, special teams. We don't talk about it enough. They should be one of the special teams, one of the better special teams groups in the conference. Caden Noonkester, Kanoa Vinicet, and what the heck? Long snappers need love too. Aiden Arias are amongst the best at their positions in the conference. Bill Belichick will be seething at how good they are in special teams.
Yeah, I did. You talk about Justin Jolly. I can always remember Justin Jolly, transfer from UConn for people who don't remember. He had a massive sophomore season with UConn, destroyed Tennessee against Tennessee. Correct. And Tennessee actually recruited him when he entered the portal, but Tennessee decided to go with Holden Stays from Notre Dame. And yeah, that still hurts me to the soul to this day. I wanted Justin Jolly so bad. And Jolly had a great season last year with the pack.
Yep.
Well, I do like Justin Jolly a lot. He's more of your Kyle Pitts type tight ends. For those who don't know, Holden Stays was a more blocker.
If Kyle Pitts and what's his name, Ferguson?
Are you talking about Terrence Ferguson?
Yeah,
from
last year. Had a baby. Like if those two guys had a baby, that baby would be Justin Jolly. He's that kind of guy. He could probably still use another 8 to 12 pounds, but
he's still very tiny. He definitely could add some more weight.
He could add some more weight, but he moves extremely extremely well.
Yeah, he does. He is a very smooth route runner. He's
very smooth, catches the ball outside the frame of his body, dangerous after the catch.
He could, if Bailey could get him the ball, have a step up this season and get Jolly to step up even more, Jolly could easily be one of those, another part of the tight end class that can get him in the day 2 picks in the late or early day 3. But I could definitely see him as a round 3 pick if he has a really good season.
Yep. And I guess we'll tie it up in a bow. We have to. I guess we can finish with Miami. We alluded to.
We
Miami.
definitely need to talk about. We have not mentioned.
Talk about Miami.
Yeah, we said we would, so we have to definitely.
We have to. Plus, they have a running back I really like in Mark Fletcher Jr. But stop me if you've heard this before. A big-time transfer portal quarterback has found a new home.
Carson Beck, for y'all who don't know already.
Either this will be seen as a great recruiting boon, or the seat will get very hot at some point this season for Mr. Cristobal. One of two things will happen. But I'll start with you. What do you think the season? How do you think the season plays out for Miami? What do you, when you look in your crystal ball, what do you see?
I see another season with Cam Ward of last year. I see them starting off hot. I think Carson Beck, if Carson Beck can stay hot like we talked about with Clay Cubnet earlier, if he can finish the season like how he started the season like he finished last season, that team can be very good. But Miami lost Elijah Arroyo, Xavier Stratford, Damian, the running back. Martinez. So I mean, they lost another piece. I mean, the offense has lost a lot of pieces. Yes, they brought in Keelan, something from BYU, the wide receiver, and as well as a wide receiver from LSU. So they have tried to replace those pieces. They also brought in Chamar Brown from North Dakota State. So they've added a lot. They can do a lot, but they've also lost a lot on defense. I know they have the money. They have the NIL. They try to go, but they spent it on the quarterback. I know they got some other small pieces here and there. That defense scares me. I have to look. I didn't really spend a lot of time on their last 2 recruiting classes and see what they got this upcoming year recruiting class to see if they have the pieces to replace the pieces there on defense. I think they're going to end as an 8-4, 9-3 season. They're going to sit right there, save enough to Mario's job, and they're just going to miss out on the college football playoffs again. And I honestly think right now it's them and Clemson. I don't think there's another team that can really compete with these two at this current juncture. If I look in the crystal ball,
yeah. Once again, my sort of caveat is I could see SMU really.
I can see SMU too. I'm not. I don't. I know they had a hell of a season last year, a heck of a season last year. Made the
both. Hell and a heck of a season.
Yeah. They have all the things. I can see it too. I can see it as it's a 3-horse race. But if I had to look at it right now, it's Clemson, it's Miami, it's SMU. And SMU is on the outside looking in. It could go vice versa, but I am going to give the edge to Miami because Mario Cristobal has shown that he is a successful coach.
Yep. And then my sort of second 3 in that sort of next tier afterwards, in whatever order they finish, Duke, Syracuse, UNC.
Yep.
They might finish in that order. They might finish in the reverse of the order. But I think that those 3 will all be super fun to watch, first of all. And one of those could be a 9-win school, maybe more than one of them. I know that we kept saying 8-9 a lot when we sort of ran through this. Obviously, at some point, the math won't math if you keep doing that. But one or more of those schools, I think, will, be in that contention to push at least close to double-digit wins. I like Hakeem Mesidor a great deal at Miami. He's a guy that I think people are, I won't say sleeping on because, people know about him, but I think he's better than a lot of people think. Ruben Bain is another guy, is a definite, probably sort of a day 2-ish to early day 3-ish kind of NFL prospect. Antonio Williams, should he emerge as a superstar, which is somewhat contingent about what happens with Carson Beck or whoever ends up having the quarterback job for most of the season. I still won't be shocked if somehow Beck loses the job. I've gone on record as saying I will not be surprised if somehow he Obviously he's going to start the season. I will not be shocked if he doesn't end the season. But Miami's going to be a fascinating, situation because of that. And then, like I said, those second three, and then after that, it's people who are fighting, to make a bowl game. But I think it's an interesting conference, top to bottom. I think there'll be at least one or two surprises. One or two of the teams that we think is going to be good won't, and at least one or two of the teams that we don't think is going to be good will be, and that happens every year in the conference. So it's not really a surprise to me when that happens. I feel it will happen. Anything else you want to mention before we close this one out, Matt?
No, we've already kind of talked about the dark horses. Really, we did mention Boston College. I would be curious about them really quickly. I think a couple other random players that Louisville, we didn't talk about on defense. We have TJ Quinn, the linebacker,
yes.
who I think, and then also the wide receiver, Chris Bell. Yep. I think both of these guys are, potential day 2, but most likely day 3 prospects at this current juncture. And then we didn't talk about SMU wide receiver Jordan Hudson.
Yep, that's an NFL person right there. That's the guy who's going to play in the league. Yeah.
So, and then going back to Virginia Tech really quickly, Ben Bell, edge, Virginia, another guy to potentially get himself into the. We have to replace Anton Taylor, the edge that was drafted.
Yeah. When Powell Ryland left, and then Aeneas People. Those two guys who were just wrecking some teams out here. They got to replace those two, and that's why I have question marks about Virginia Tech, because those are two really great football players, and it's difficult to, if one of them had stayed, right, I'd be like, okay, yeah, they still got one of them, but yeah, with both of them being gone, I think it'll take them a while to solidify who the new person fixing, that part of their defensive line will be.
I was pounding the table because the Packers brought in Powell for a visit, and I was like, yes, we need edge, pounding the table. Never drafted him, of course, but man, I was a Powell believer in this draft process. Yep. He had one of the prettiest spin moves on the market.
Yeah, just a terrific array of moves, powerful, and not bad against the run. He had a little bit of everything that you need to be a really solid pro. Yeah, I'm excited. Now we'll talk about the conference obviously more as the season goes on, but this of course, as in a preview setting, it's all projection obviously. Yeah. But I think that people are sleeping on a couple of programs in the conference and a couple of the players in the conference, and even some of the coaches in the conference. Yes. Maybe aren't getting quite their due. Thomas Brown being one of the exceptions. I think the world is awakening Thomas Brown.
Of Syracuse, we talked about the pieces that they lost and have to replace. Per PFF, they have the 10th toughest schedule in college football.
They have a super tough schedule, yeah.
So it is going to be very interesting. And I just think that goes back to if Thomas Brown wins 9 games or 8 games with that schedule and with everything, Syracuse is going to have to pay the man, or that man is going to get paid by another big program.
Yeah, he's getting paid.
He's getting
paid. He gets the 9 wins. He's going to get paid. I promise you that.
It's just where is he getting paid?
The only question is where, right? Who's going to sign the checks? That's the question.
We're both a little blushing on Thomas Brown.
I'm a big Thomas Brown guy. I would have loved to have landed him in Carolina. I would never have stopped bothering people if that had happened. But we still got a very interesting coaching situation there with a lot of NFL experience on that coaching staff in Carolina. So we'll see how that plays out. But on behalf of Team MBS Media, my name is Bill Carroll. I am the host you can count on every year. But we have a wonderful, wonderful co-host who is stepping, as you said, into some very large shoes. Once again, Matt, tell people where they can find you and what it is that you're working on.
Yeah, thank you again. I'm super excited to be joining the NBS team, as well as joining and being the co-host with Bill here on the college football forecast for the upcoming 25 college football season. You can find me on X at Brunelli Sport below here in the bottom left corner, as well as you can find me at my other podcast, the Mocking With You podcast. Those are the 2 places I'm at mostly. I am going to be looking at writing with the MBS team here, as well as potentially starting some other projects with talking about my Packers and Tennessee Volunteers. So those are projects you can find me and hopefully see in the future. So again, I'm super excited to be part of this team and on this podcast. So thank you again, Bill. And again, best wishes and lucks to Brock, the gentleman I am replacing.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure he sees this. So once again, we will see you guys again in a week. Football is back, I guess, as of literally right now, and college football will be back in just a few more weeks. So stay with us, and we will continue to forecast college football for you. And please like and subscribe.